first of all, I just want you to tell us what your film is, a little bit about your film, and exactly what your role on the film was.
Sure. Hello, I'm Holly Stone, choreographer, director, filmmaker, etc. My film is called Made Manifest, and it is a dance film excerpt of a much larger work in progress. I'm currently working on an original full-length story ballet called The Queen of Nori. And we were originally supposed to have initial premiere of some of the work in April of 2020. We all know how that story ends. And everything was canceled and the project fell apart and so on and so forth. When I got involved, there were several digital dance organizations that sprang up as a result of the pandemic. And I got, one of them reached out to me with interest in having me translate some of the work that I had been doing on this stage work into a film to give it a new life. And so we took, myself and some of my rehearsal mates took a portion of that work and turned it into a dance film. And here we are. So I'm the director and choreographer and general mastermind and editor actually of the project in that particular film. So yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. That the origins of this project. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the actual original version of this? Or
Sure. Yeah, so as I said, The Queen of Nori is an original story ballet that follows a queen who turns to dark magic to save her kingdom from war with neighboring powers. The sort of glib tagline is Game of Thrones, the ballet. And that's pretty accurate in terms of tone and scope, I guess, of the story. There's not a lot of genre in ballet. There's fairy tale, and that's kind of and there's fairy tale and some novel and adaptations of 19th century novels, and that's about it. And one of my goals as an artist is to take ballet into the 21st century, and this is one of the ways that we're doing that. So the stage production actually is getting back up on its feet now. I'm currently in residency here in Boston, putting a workshop version of the show together. It's about an hour long. And we'll be premiering that actually this Saturday, which is very exciting. Yeah, there's a lot happening. But one of the challenges with this film was to find the places where it ties into the overall work, but hopefully is understandable without needing the full context of the hour-long show.
Okay, so what made you decide in this genre to do a dance performance? Because I'm very curious about that. Because you're right, it's not something that's typical. So I'm curious now.
Yeah, well, so I'm a dancer and choreographer by trade. That's my life. I've made a lot of dance film in a lot of different ways, sort of before it was cool with the pandemic. So it's something that I've been aware of as a medium. It allows you to take in some ways, a more intimate look at movement and at a body moving in space than a stage production does, because a stage production is almost always from a distance, and allows you, it's very wide shot, but less, we don't have the power of the extreme close-up like you do in film. So I felt with this particular piece from the overall work, it could be suited to film because it's a solo, and there are some opportunities to play with some VFX, which you don't see in dance film very often, because the primary goal is usually the body and the camera moving in space. But here we needed a little extra spice to tell the story.
So I was so enthralled. I'm trying to think of all my questions now, because if your background is in dance and performance, your background isn't going to be in film. So did you have any background in film, or were you learning as you went along, or how did that come about?
Kind of. So I like I said, I'm a choreographer and dancer by trade. I've been video editing since I was a teenager, so I have always been interested in film, and I've always loved film, and I have no formal education in film outside of outside of like a couple college courses in like basic editing. But I have made other dance films in the past. I've had other dance films in festivals in the past. So this is not the first experience I've had with that. But this is my first experience directing from a distance, because the film was shot in North Florida. I'm in Boston. As part of the COVID chaos, I moved from North Florida to back to the north. I'm originally from Vermont. And my crew and cast were in Florida. So I was directed this whole thing via Zoom.
Oh my God.
And then they had to send me the footage, and then I edited it here in Boston. So it was definitely a new experience of needing to like storyboard and conceptual and shot list and conceptualize like everything that I needed in a different way than I have in the past, because I was not physically there to point cameras in places and make those kinds of like directorial decisions.
Yeah.
Are a different ballgame when you're doing them over Zoom.
Now, I know it had to be difficult, but since you had to edit all this as well, did you find that, was that like a big challenge? You weren't there for the actual filming, you were directing it via Zoom, and then you had to edit the whole thing, and it's a dance piece. It's not like two people talking in a cafe.
Yeah, editing for movement is very different than reverse shot, like classic editing. You have to pay special attention to the momentum through space, and that the timing of the cuts is very specific, because our eyes are very sensitive to movement jumping back and forth between frames. And so you have to be, if you're looking to preserve continuity of a movement between cuts, it's a little fiddly. Add on top of that the not being there, and there's an element, of course, of like you're not really sure what it's going to look like until it shows up on your in this case your Premiere, because I use Adobe Premiere to edit it. But editing for dance and for movement is very different than editing dialogue scenes or conventional film editing, because the emphasis is on the momentum of the visual image, not necessarily like pacing of words. I had another thought. It's disappeared. It'll come back at some point.
No, because I know a lot of dancers, and it's all about the body, the movement of the body and everything, and that is not necessarily what traditional filmmakers focus on. And it's like, plus you added visual effects to the whole thing as well. So
yeah, it took me about 3 weeks to edit it, on top of my day job. So it was a lot of work. I have never done any kind of like animation or visual effects. This was my crash course in how to use After Effects in this whole experience, which was definitely exciting and fun. One of the there's something in there about continuity of movement, because one of the things that film as a medium for dance allows you to do that stage performance does not is the montage. So one of the things that I found really quickly in the edit of this particular film is that the ending, I could have this montage to layer more of the ideas of the invention of this magic, which we can't do on stage. We have to do it in a different way on stage, because we can't splice a bunch of really quick shots together to achieve that sense of passage of time in the same way that you can on a stage.
That's very interesting. So it would be very interesting to see the difference with the show you have this weekend versus the film.
Yeah, and the basic movement is the same, like the choreographic phrases are the same, but the timing is a little different, and it's even the same performer, so that's a variable that is been taken out of it. But the timing is a little different. The film is actually longer than the section is in the stage version, partly because of the montage material at the end. And yeah, hopefully it gets the same effect, but they're different mediums, so there's slightly different ways of getting at the same effect.
This just means that after this weekend, you need to work on the feature-length version of this, so you can have this dance, fantasy, performance, art piece to show the world that will hopefully bridge these gaps between dance and performance in live theater and film. You know,
I mean, I think that's a fantastic idea, and I would love to do that. The digital dance project, who originally commissioned the film work, definitely have been wanting me to do that. Unfortunately, the budget to do so does not line up with the desire to do so at this point. But I think that would be amazing. I would love to do like an on location kind of situation, like a castle or something. To have like a real, like a feature length or close to feature length dance film with like real locations. And I think that would be fantastic. I'm 100% down for it if someone wants to help fund it.
I do hope that the film gets enough play at film festivals, and of course the live action version gets enough attention so that you can, if that is what you ultimately want to do with this project, that it will happen. Yeah. I know. I don't know, because of the whole COVID thing, if it was like, we can't do the live version, so we'll do an alternative until we can go back to the live version type of thing, or if it's like, oh wow, I actually had fun doing the film version, let's do that too. So I
would love to do both. I think it would be really just from an artistic perspective standpoint, it would be really interesting to see what works in the stage version and what you have to do differently in the film version because of the differences in medium to tell the same story. That's something that has always fascinated me about like book to movie adaptations and stage to screen adaptations. I think it would be totally a very interesting and really like artistically exciting endeavor to do both of them.
So what was your inspiration to come up with this project? What are some of the things that that inspired you to come up with this type of project?
Sure. So I was originally approached by a composer, Ian Guthrie, who did the music for the film back in 2019, I think. He was interested, he's a composer, he's interested in writing for dance, and didn't really know where to start. And I was like, well, I've always wanted to do an original full-length ballet, and I have had some of these story ideas bouncing around in my head for a long time. Like I said, I grew up in Vermont, and I have always been a huge fantasy fan, a huge nerd, and invented stories and worlds as a kid, and I wrote them down, and I kept a lot of the notes from those, and that became, once he approached me about wanting to do a narrative work, that became the impetus to take one of my story ideas from when I was a kid into and adapt it into a libretto or the stage version of a screenplay for the ballet. And obviously, some things had to shift around and figure out different characters and scenes and whatnot, as you do when you adapt something. But as a macro scale idea, the idea of doing an original ballet has been in my head for a very long time, in part because of the lack of original narrative work in ballet. Like I said, most of the work that's being done by current companies is either fairy tale classics, Sleeping Beauty, Swan Lake, etc., or it's adaptations of like 19th century novels. There was a high-profile Jane Eyre that happened in New York City and in Scotland a few years ago, and like Alice in Wonderland, stuff like that, Wuthering Heights, stuff that's not copyrighted that can be adapted for a stage. But I've really been of the opinion that if we want to take ballet into the 21st century, we need like story material that originates from the 21st century, and as an option to be able to say something, use fiction to say something about what's happening now, as opposed to relying on older stories to do that.
No, that's very interesting. Until we had this conversation, I hadn't even thought about that. But I think you were absolutely correct. I think all the ballets that I'm familiar with and that I see in my facility, because I work at a facility that does a lot of ballet performances, and they are all traditional stories. I didn't think about that until now. And now that I think about it, I was like, oh, well, you're right. I think there should be more people bold enough to do something different and new and creative, and even blurring the genres a little bit more. I mean, wow. Yeah, you are doing something that I hadn't even thought about. And I'd like to see more of that done now that I'm thinking about it. I'll have to start searching this out now. Wow. So, having this been a COVID project, hopefully you won't have to do this again that way. But you know, some of I mean, why did you decide to do it during this period and not wait until something like now? I mean, that was like a huge undertaking to do a project that you're in a different state than others, and you're, you know, having to direct it via Zoom. Or was that a challenge you were looking forward to?
There's sort of there's two things that come to mind. Number one, the digital dance project, the organization that reached out to me with interested in having me present something as part of their program. They are creating dance works for the screen primarily, and so that was always going to be the goal, and it was always going to happen in the times of plague, shall we say, because that's where we were at the time that we shot it. And if I wanted to use the cast and crew that I was already familiar with, then I had to do it via Zoom because that's what was available to me. And I made the decision that I didn't want to find local performers and try to figure out how to do an in-person shoot, because I had people who already knew the movement and who already knew the scope of the project, which makes my life a little easier. On a kind of a larger existential level, like why create it all in unpleasant times? I mean, I feel like that speaks for itself, and that, you know, it's been really difficult as a creator over the past year, as many people have talked about, in having this thing that is so special to you yanked away, and people having to figure out ways to still keep that alive whilst things are difficult. And you know, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot in the COVID year is, who are you when everything else is taken away? And I'm a creator, and I have to make stuff or I go insane. And so it became, once that's established as like, okay, I'm going to do this, then kind of all of the logistical problems become surmountable. Yeah.
That is a great response. You are absolutely correct. I feel the same way in regards to if I had done nothing in the last year and not be creative, I would have gone crazy. So yeah, you're the second person I've heard say something similar. Yours was absolutely brilliant the way you said. But creativity, we're all artists. We're independent artists, whether we do live or whether we do film, or if you're doing ballet, dance, or we're doing a dialogue scene between two people in a cafe. COVID was a challenge, and we hopefully have all come through and decided that we're not going to allow this to stop us from being creative. You know, we're going to keep doing our projects no matter the obstacles, because everything's surmountable. I mean, bravo for you on that. I have to say that.
Thank you. I won't say it hasn't been difficult, but you know, if you want to make things, I think I don't know. I'm not someone who would use the word higher calling, because that doesn't really speak to me, but there's a sense of having a drive and being driven by an internal force that won't leave me alone. So you're gonna, you know, if you can't fly to Florida to shoot with your people, you figure out you have them stick you on Zoom on a tripod in the corner, and you figure out how to make it happen.
Oh man, I'm sure that was very fun for them in Florida. That sounds like it would have been fun. Although for you, it probably wasn't as fun as it was for them to be looking at a little screen that you're the director and they're seeing you that way.
Yeah, one of the things that has surprised me both with the film project and also with in like coaching live performance via Zoom is like, is it perfect? No. But the amount that you can tell over Zoom, it's continuously surprises me. Like I start, over the hours that we were shooting, I started to be able to tell, like, okay, I think we need more light over there, and we need a little bit less light over there, even though the colors that I'm seeing on Zoom have nothing to do with the colors that I actually get when I see the footage, right? But you start to figure out what corresponds to what, and still are able to make like informed artistic decisions, even in those conditions.
So, how long did it take to shoot this project then?
We shot in one day.
Okay.
So we shot the whole thing in one day. I don't remember how many hours it was. It was a lot, but it was one day. And a couple of weeks of like dedicated pre-production, some more weeks of rehearsal for the dancers, and then 3 weeks of editing for me. And yeah, that's basically it. So like all told about 2.5 to 3 months, probably, to do the whole thing.
Okay. Good way to spend a few months out of the pandemic. Yeah, I should have did that myself, but I was too busy trying to get some writing done.
Gotcha.
Oh, jeez. So, so tell me a little bit about we've spoken about your theater project, and we've spoken about you hopefully doing the film version of the theater project. Do you have any other projects that you have going on other than that, or is your focus really on this right now?
Right now, my focus is pretty much solely on this project. Like I said, we're in the middle of a residency here in Boston, so pretty much all of my attention is focused on getting that show put together so that we can walk away on Saturday with a workshop version of it. So yes, that's pretty much all I'm doing. I don't really have any other things going on right now. I do have a day job. I'm actually a professional ballroom dancer on top of everything else. But that is not what I'm thinking about currently.
But it's still in the dance world, and you're a dancer / choreographer, so that's actually a good thing. You're staying within that same wheelhouse, but exploring the fantasy aspects and the in your personal projects, which is actually nice. Because like I said, I don't recall ever seeing any other person doing a dance project in any one of the genres. I've only seen even the dance projects that we've had submitted to this festival and other film festivals that I'm a judge on have all been like your traditional musical dance projects. Yeah. They haven't been really a visual dance fantasy. I don't even know how to properly describe it, but it's so much more interesting than saying I did the dance musical.
Yeah,
it's like and I mean, that's one of the assets of being able to do this film festival. I get to see different things being crafted by creative people like yourself. Stuff I would have never bothered to ever see. That I'm glad I'll be able to screen this for other people, especially other independent filmmakers who are thinking about doing dance projects or having dance in their projects. It is achievable, and you did something that is not typical, has some visual effects in it, has dance in it that contributes to the story you're trying to tell. So, I mean, that's one hell of a project there, the ambition for the project. So, I have to commend you on that. Oh, yeah, I want to say that I do hope that we see more of this project. Yeah, I wish I could see the live version, but I'm not going to be able to get up to Boston.
All good.
But hopefully, it's your residency, and so you're workshopping it now, and then hopefully that you'll find a point where it will no longer be workshopped, and you can actually perform it in front of regular audiences. and that will be the drive to, you know, hopefully get the financing to make a feature-length film of it, or at least help you get some of it to make the film feature-length version. So, I mean, that's what I would hope for you, because I hope for nothing but the best out of every film that we screen. So, by all means, please make sure to keep us in the loop on the project, because we all want to know.
Of course. Yeah, that'd be great.
But I would like to ask, is there anything you would like to tell the people watching this about your project in particular, or about filmmaking, or about, you know, well, we already discussed your next project. So anything in that regards?
I think I've said most of what I was hoping to say about the project. Yeah, just, you know, Game of Thrones, the ballet. I think there's a market for it. Just gotta get a real theater.
That is a great tagline. Game of Thrones, the ballet. I think now when people ask me what your film is about, I will say I got it from the director's mouth. It is Game of Thrones, the ballet.
Basically.
They will probably go see it because everyone around here loves Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, I would like to thank you for allowing us to do this interview. And like I said, we wish you nothing but the luck with the film in other film festivals, as well as your future projects. So we'll be on the lookout for those. And I wish you a good evening. And, you know, until the next project, and we get to speak again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This was great fun.
Thank you.